Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Uniform with the LT's daughter. I am so excited for today's guest, Sean Wilkes. He and I were connected again, another connection through Will Be Inspired. He's just making connections all over the place. I love Will. But Sean, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And I
and
know
shout out to Will for making the connection.
Absolutely. And I know you and I already connected offline, and we had quite a lengthy conversation about just a lot of the opinions and perspectives and thoughts that we have, specifically around, the mental and physical health of first responders and law enforcement. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
really excited to dive in with you. But first, I want to start by learning a little bit more about you. And I always start with, why did you decide to get in law enforcement?
Okay. Yeah. So I am going on my ninth year in law enforcement, and I kind of came from a family where we had a couple of uncles that were law enforcement. One sticks out in particular. My uncle Victor, he would always show up at like family functions with his cop car and turn the lights on, and he's like, "Oh, I have to go," and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool! Like, what is he doing?" And then I had the pleasure of watching my grandpa serve as a city mayor. So we'd see the police officers quite a bit. So it's something that I kind of always wanted to do since I was small. And it just kind of grew as I got older. I always tell people like I don't have a really an attention span at all. So it just kind of like fits me perfect because being a cop, you're doing this, that, you're going from here to there. So I got into it, and then obviously, I see the purpose in it and serving others and protecting, and it's something I've always believed in, and I love doing it.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we hear that a lot about like my uncle, my dad, my mom, my brother,
Yeah,
like all these people. It's definitely like a legacy job where
absolutely.
the people you look up to in your life sort of personify what it means to be a law enforcement officer, and they kind of set that standard. And they, if they're a good cop, then you want to be a good cop too, and you want to
Yeah,
be the
absolutely.
same hero sort of persona that they kind
Absolutely.
of are to you.
Yeah.
So I think that's really sweet. I love that. How old were you when you became a cop, if you don't mind me asking? I don't
Yeah.
want to out
So,
you.
yeah, no, you're totally fine. So, me and my wife met in 2015, and 4 months into knowing each other, we figured out that we were pregnant. So, I was super young. I started when I was 23. It was kind of one of those things like, hey, it's time to put on your big boy pants and go do your
Yeah.
big boy job and, stop making $13 an hour at the
Yeah.
warehouse. I need some benefits and stuff. So, I had to grow up really fast. And it was a blessing in disguise. At first you're kind of like, what am I going to do? But it's
hmm
obviously got me, this far, and I love what I'm doing. But that's how, that's how kind of how that started. So yeah, I got in at 23. So
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've still interviewed people who got in younger. I mean, it's definitely one of those jobs where people start really young in life. But it sounds like, I mean, maybe it wasn't a career, but it sounds like you did have a job before law enforcement.
oh, absolutely.
Was that like your post high school, like figuring out next steps in life kind of job?
Well, yeah, and I played football in college for a year, and I was under the impression I was like, oh, I got to get all this partying out, this young kid out of me
Right.
before I go do that job, and so apparently God said, hey, it's out of you, and now you're gonna have a kid. So
Get it
So,
together.
yeah, yeah. So it was a good time.
So you and your wife were already together when you joined the academy, but it sounds like you weren't together that long.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was that kind of adventure, if you will, like for you and your wife? I mean, you guys in particular were navigating a lot of things because the relationship itself was fairly new, it sounds like. You were about to have a baby. You're
Yeah.
still kind of young.
Yeah.
And like
And
now you're like, we're in it for the long haul, so
yeah,
let's
the
go.
long, long haul.
So yeah, I'm really interested because I know, like, I've heard from a lot of people that like the academy process can be really stressful, and then like the subsequent transition into this lifestyle can be really stressful, and like you guys are still kind of figuring out how you fit together and how you operate together. So how did you guys navigate all of those at such a young age?
Yeah, and I mean, I have to give my wife praise because she's always supported me. But she was kind of like, "Hey, you have to go do this," because we do need benefits, this and that. And she was still in school, and it was one of those things you go through, the hiring process, and that's a different beast than probably applying at Walgreens or McDonald's, right? It's a
Right.
little bit more intensive,
Yeah.
and then you get into the academy and you are stressed out. But the academy life here in Kansas is, where I'm at, it's kind of like a 9 to 5, for a
Hmm.
few. So you're kind of like, okay, I'm hired as a cop, but I'm kind of just on like banker hours. So there's really
Hmm.
no immediate transition into the life of a first responder or that shift work. You know what I mean? So getting out um, of the academy and going into FTO is, I think, when everything kind of hit, because you're, with an officer on their shift for however many weeks, and then you go to a next one, and they're trying to make sure that you're working a day shift, the evening shift, a midnight shift. And like I said, my wife has kind of always been there and been supportive and worked through it, but it was definitely like one of those transitions where you're kind of like, I wasn't really seeing her that much. I was like, this is kind
Yeah.
of weird. Or, being new and stressed, you kind of think that you need to prioritize yourself. You're like, well, no, I need to go to bed. Like, you don't understand. Your spouse never understands.
Hmm.
Um, and then obviously having the kiddo come in, you know, she is, trying to take care of the baby. I'm trying to go to work, and do this. It was definitely stressful. And we learned a lot along the way, but I think it helped, our relationship grow and become stronger just because it was a lot of adversity, at one time. So it kind of worked itself out, I guess, if you could say. We just
Yeah.
powered through, and we still do it. But she kind of adopted the lifestyle because she knew it's always what I wanted to do, and she's been running with it. Luckily, she doesn't complain too much. In the beginning of my career, I was definitely, that young cop that wanted to arrest everything walking and wanted to be at work. I didn't want to miss the big call. I didn't want to miss this or that
Mm.
fun stuff. So there was overtime I'm taking. If I got called, like, hey, do you want to come help look for this guy? I'm like, yep,
Hell
sign me
yeah.
up. I'm on the way. Like, I was definitely eager to get out there and get after it. And she understood for the most part. There was a few times where she was like, no, dude, like, what are you doing?
Right, right.
But I mean, it's part of the learning process, and I'm sure we'll get into that later on in this interview.
Yeah, 100%. And I
So,
want to, I mean, now you have two daughters, and I want to get
yeah,
more into kind of how you balance all of the things. But when you were that young cop, super eager, wanting to do, all the cool things that cops get to do and take
yeah.
on all the extra hours and catch all the bad guys. How did you then sort of come to realize, like, maybe I do need to take a step back, maybe I do need to cut back on the overtime, or like maybe I don't need to be there for every single arrest that the department makes? Did you
Right.
come to that conclusion kind of on your own? Did an incident happen? Did your wife have
I would say
something?
it was like you could probably say a little bit of both. And I don't think it was a incident at work. It was more like, how many times is it like dad has to work, or like you're
Hmm.
moving, like families are moving holidays around, like, oh, well, we won't do it on Christmas. We'll do it, a couple days before or a couple
Hmm.
days after. And you're like, well, then that's not like Christmas. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
when does Santa Claus come? And kind of what I remember is, like, I was on day shift for Christmas, and we were waking we were waking Emerson up at like 3 a.m. for Santa Claus, so she could have
Santa made his first stop of the night here.
right, and I was like, "Okay, this is a bit ridiculous," like, and it is those things, as we spoke offline too, is you get into the line, and it's, people, it's just what we deal with type thing. And as you mature and as you get older, you're like, "Okay, I don't know if this is right." It is affecting the home, like, my daughter's running around doing a lot of, holidays, by herself, or her and mom are out just making the rounds while dad's at work. And for me, it was missing a lot of the bigger events, especially as she got older, like into, at first she started with cheer and dance, and you're missing those things, and you're like, man, this sucks. Like, so it's just kind of, like I said, it was kind of a lot of multiple different things, if you would, that led up to me being like, hey, I just want to find a way to be at home some more and, be present,
Hmm.
and also being present, like present when you're at home,
Yeah.
because it's hard sometimes to, we deal with people and back to starting young. It's like I got into it. I remember working calls where I'm like, I'm telling a 45-year-old how to act right
How to
now.
behave.
Better yet, like, how to manage their marriage, and I'm like, I don't
Right.
even know how to manage my own, but I'm sitting here telling basically common sense stuff, it's just wild, and so it's
There's
just
so much of that too,
yeah,
though.
it's so much just to kinda unpack at once, but, I mean, we're here, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's impressive too, and I'm really curious, like, and maybe you don't even know, but I am genuinely curious, like, how you kind of came to that conclusion kind of on your own. Like, was it just observing your daughter's experience and living their lives sort of almost without you, missing out on things? Because I'm especially curious about this because it's so normalized in this industry where it's like
Yeah,
expected. Like this just is the way it is. And I think not only for the cops, like, yeah, I just miss out on X, Y, and Z. I'm not there for Christmas, or we celebrate Christmas on a different day. But the spouses kind of come to adopt the same attitude where it's
oh, yeah,
like, I know my spouse isn't going to be home on my birthday, and it just is the way it is. Like, I've even seen, on social media, like in the comment sections where it's like, my family and I know and understand that we take second place when it comes to his job, and that's okay. And I mean, it's like, I don't think that's okay at all.
yeah,
But I say all that just to say, like, that's literally how normalized it has become. And, you know, I just think it's so interesting that, you kind of fit the script in the sense that you got into it young. You were
mhm.
a young officer. You shortly thereafter had a family. You were as excited as every other officer that starts young, but you came to this conclusion on your own. Like maybe you were wise beyond your years.
Yeah, I could say a little bit, but I mean, you start to notice, and I like to sometimes sit back and reflect, because, like you said, sometimes the spouse just adopts it too. But
Mhm.
if you just sit back and you kind of take a second sometimes, and you go, okay, well, I'm just actually being selfish, right? Because your family shouldn't come second to a
Mhm.
job, right?
Right.
And I guess it's hard to kind of think that way because we are doing a line of work where it's like as soon as we put on that uniform, everybody comes before us.
Mhm.
And so I think I just had like, a little realization of like, yeah, I'm missing these things, watching my daughter grow up, like kind of in the background, I'm watching her grow up, if you would. Like I'm watching her grow up from a patrol car instead of
Yeah.
being there at the house. And there's other little like marital things, me and my wife are, irritable at each other, because now she has these expectations when I'm at home, but then I have my own expectations, and I think it was just a combination of things and really just maturing as a person and in the job, kind of realizing and kind of want to break that stigma, right? I'm sure we'll get into all those stigmas here later on, but there's so many that come with law enforcement, and to include like just the broken family aspect, and you're like, why is like, but why?
Yeah.
So it was really just one of those things that I was just like, okay, I got to man up, right? I got to man up, and you want to take control of your household, you want to be there. And for your family. So I was just like, this, we got to figure out a way to prioritize some things differently.
Yeah.
There's the bad guys are going to be there.
Right.
you know,
Well, I mean, honestly, and I really do mean this, but like good for you and your wife because you guys are young, you're raising a young family. And I mean, I do think that you're both kind of wise beyond your years and you're, very mature and have an understanding of, what you want for your lives and for your families more than, I mean, most adults in today's society. I mean, you
absolutely.
have like the wherewithal to reflect on yourself. And like maybe your communication isn't always 100%, but from the sound of it, you guys are always, doing your best and just always trying to stay grounded and stay well rounded and be there for each other and for, your daughters.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the phrases I like to use often, people want to, move departments or whatever, or certain different things. I always say, well, the grass is never greener, or your
Mhm.
grass can be that green if you just water it. And so
Mhm.
if you water your own grass, it could look like that other green grass. So it's about pouring into what's important to you. And if you're able to do that, then your grass is going to be just as green.
Yes, 100%. Really well said. And I think it's really important for people to hear, especially coming from you, because like I said, you fit the bill. You are who a lot of these people are or were. I talk a lot about my dad, but he was 31 when he became a cop. He knew that he was going to get married and have a family and
Right.
all of these things. So he had, I think, a lot of just life circumstances that served him through, raising us,
Yeah, absolutely.
and my mom, and they were more mature. But you kind of trial by fire, like by definition,
Absolutely.
you guys were
Yeah.
really thrown into it. And again, I mean, you're not even on the job 10 years and you guys are, figuring your shit out, which I just think is really awesome and really incredible for people to hear on this podcast, but also, through your platform, which we are going to talk about in a little bit. But I am curious with your family, now you're married 7 years.
Mhm.
Now you've brought a second daughter into the situation. How do you guys sort of navigate the schedule? Because you're still on patrol, yes?
So I am now the community outreach
That's right.
officer.
Your community outreach.
Yeah. So, as much as I'd love to be out on patrol, but then again, I took the position, wanting something like a break, so, day shift hours, I get weekends off, the option to have holidays off, and that's awesome. And I also think, there's a lot of people that they're when I got the spot, they're like, "Oh, dude, what you're gonna, oh, who this?" And it's a different side of policing, and I do enjoy it, because a lot of us signed up and we lose that. I guess the why behind that is to protect and serve, but also be there for the community, and interacting with the community and making that connection is part of that. But a lot of us get jaded and we're like, "Oh, that's stupid. I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. I don't want to kiss and shake babies or whatever they say, and
Hmm. Yeah.
kiss babies, hug babies, hand out stickers. But it's part of the job, and it is like I was like, okay, well, I could take a step back from patrol and be at my house, and be with
Yeah.
my family, and really. I have to really give a lot of credit to my wife. It's funny, we operate kind of just off the whim. People are always like, "You guys will just get up and go." Like, we just
Gotta
operate
do what you
well.
gotta do.
Yeah, we both understand that, like, it is what it is. We have to get whatever done, and we just figure out a way to get it done. I always joke now because, I mean, as about recently, maybe within the year, I tell myself, like, I've become a calendar guy. Everything's on the calendar. And even my wife, like, we used to write stuff on the little whiteboard on the refrigerator, but we never really looked at it. And now it's all like, we'll be talking about something, and we're like, "Well, let's look at our calendars."
Yeah.
Like, who are
Yeah.
we? Like, let me get out my calendar.
Full-fledged adults.
Yeah, full-fledged adults, and, we still and, people are always like, "How do you guys do all these things?" And I'm like, "We kinda just that's always just been us. We fly by the seat of our pants, and we make it happen. What needs to be done will get done." And, a lot of that comes down to communication too. Like, we
Hmm.
talk a lot, and we're constantly, calling each other, texting each other, trying to make sure, one, that we're getting the kids picked up, but then we also run into a lot of, of times where we're like, "Ooh, we double booked ourselves. Oops."
Oops.
And so then that's where we go into our calendar.
Yeah.
And so, it definitely wasn't like that when I first got on the job. A calendar was not in sight anywhere.
Right.
But it is it's like baptism by fire, I guess, if
Hmm.
you would. Like, here it is, figure it out. And
Yeah.
we literally, like, I wish I could give you like a clear cut, hey, we started implementing this or this and that,
Hmm.
but we really just figure it out as we go, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is you're operating as a team and you're playing on the same team.
right,
Like
exactly.
you're not, you know, going at each other. You're not, well, you're working too much. Well,
Yeah,
your job is to take care of the kids. Like you
right.
guys are truly operating as a team. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think a lot of it just goes back to kind of your guys' self-awareness and having the same sort of life goals and end goals is that, you want what's best for each other, you want what's best for your girls, and
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
you got to do to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to go on a little bit of a tangent real quick because you mentioned you're a community officer. One, I would like for you to explain what that means because I don't totally understand it.
Okay.
But first, I want to just kind of emphasize what you said about one, you opted to get into community policing because it was going to serve you and your family in this stage of your life. And you got kind of a little bit of pushback, you got a little bit of,
Oh
the
yeah.
chatter, if you
Oh yeah.
will.
Oh yeah.
But to your point earlier, the bad guys are always going to be there. Like
Yeah.
if right now community policing is what serves you, or, if you're listening, whatever position might serve you and that's available to you, go after that.
Yeah.
Do what's going to serve you because if in 5, 10, 15 years when your girls are off to college or whatever they're doing, if you want to get back to patrol or you want to get back to chasing the bad guys, like the bad guys are still going to be out there. Like
Yeah,
you
we
can
we
you
have
can
some
always go
good job
back.
security being police officers. Our job's not really going
Exactly.
anywhere.
Exactly. Exactly. So like I just think it's really important that you and cool that you took this opportunity. I mean, for whatever reasons in your own mind, but also because it gives you the freedom and flexibility that you need in this stage in your life, regardless of what the guys at the office were saying.
Right, well, absolutely. Like I said, when I was a young cop, man, I was all about going out there. I wanted to
Hmm.
be in car pursuits. I wanted to get in fights. I wanted to, run after all these people. So when I did put in, people were like, "What? Not in a million years." Um, but like, I feel like I'm an outgoing person. I always told people, there's also a side of I really like humanizing the badge.
Hmm.
When I was on patrol, I never really spoke to people in that robotic type of language, if you would. I never really was like, "Oh, my name's Officer Wilkes with the police department," and do you
Hmm.
know the reason I stopped you, or do you know why I'm here? I was more of like kind of read it and going in, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" or "Hey, what's up?" And I've even been asked that in an interview before by a complaint that came in, and the guy interviewing was like, "Is that how you talk to everybody?" And I was like, literally, my response was, "Like a person, yes."
Yeah.
Um, and so, and a lot of it comes back to so right around this time when this positioning came open, my grandpa had passed. And my grandpa was the first African American mayor in Johnson County, which is a
Wow.
county in Kansas. And a lot of people always talked about how he was a trailblazer. And he was big in the community and he never knew a stranger. Like we would go to the grocery store and he's saying hello to everybody.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter if he knows them or whatever. He's just, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? And
That sounds like a mayor.
yeah, yeah, and, but he would do like, even before he was the mayor, it's just who he was, and, I was like, "Man, I feel like this is where I can make a pretty good mark." So as the community officer, like, we do, like, the social media. My department does a lot of these summer events for the kids. So I'm there, being the face of the department, if you would.
Hmm.
And then it's now allowed me to do mentorship. So I do it through the school district. They reach out to me, whatever the kid needs. My only request on that is like, I don't want to do the scared straight role, because a lot of parents are like, yeah, they just need to be scared. And I'm always like, I don't like when parents say that because we're actually here to help them.
Wait,
So
do they actually call you and try to get you to do that kind of stuff?
so through the mentorship, like it normally starts at the school,
Okay.
but sometimes it is like, hey, this kid's getting in a lot of trouble. Could you come talk to him? I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to him, but I'm not gonna give him some like
Right.
scary something. because
Defeats
that
the purpose. Then
yeah,
they'll be
that's not
scared of
what
the
I
police.
yeah, that's not what I want, like, we are here to serve them, and if I don't want them to ever be scared to call the police if they need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we get to do a lot of unique, different things. It's kind of up to us of what we want to get out there and do with the community and get community engagement. So we do it multiple different ways. I enjoy it, and sometimes when not too much is going on. Excuse me. I have an incredible boss who is like, "Hey, yeah, you can go out there. Look, this is my daughter. She is awake now. So sorry, and
That's okay.
she wants to now hand me.
How old is she?
She is 2.
Oh.
Um, I put her on the screen, but she has a Band-Aid on her face. Somehow, she has, like, this scratch, and, Band-Aids make
Oh. Of
everything better, so,
course
uh
they do.
right, but, yeah, so I enjoy seeing that other side of the career,
Hmm.
at this point, and like you said, it does serve, me right now at home, being home, I haven't missed a softball game
Right.
or softball practice, stuff like that, or just being also of assistance to my wife, running the kids around, being able to pick them up. And, because it's the first time. So she was a school teacher forever, for 5 years. And now she's a personal trainer. But there for a while, like she was taking the kids, picking the kids up, taking the kids,
Hmm.
picking the kids up. And now I at least get an opportunity to contribute by taking the kids. Before I go into work. So that helps her out, big time. So back to like you're saying, it's all about teamwork,
Hmm.
um, and just making that sacrifice. Like, yeah, people at the PD buddies want to give you stuff, but it's like, okay, you guys don't live with me. You guys are buddies, not
Yes.
my family that I'm I'm with for the rest of my life. Like,
Yes. I'm not going home
it's
to you guys.
yeah,
Like,
not going home to you guys. I'm going home to them, so you can say whatever you want to say. I'm gonna do it, but guess what? My wife's damn happy, so
hmm.
sorry. Can you say
Yeah.
the same thing? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
and like, and in a few years, your kids are going to remember these things, and these things are going to have, a profound impact on the small kids that you have at home, even if it doesn't seem like it or look like it or feel like it in the moment, because, she's 2 years old. She doesn't necessarily, she's not going to remember that this happened,
yeah, absolutely.
but, she is going to remember that took her to pre-K or whatever, like,
Mhm.
you were there with her when mom was at work or whatever it is. And I just think like, at the end of the day, at the end of your career, at the end of your life, that's what matters, not
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
what the guys are saying or
Right,
talking about behind your back. And
right.
it's so interesting to me, again, as like an outsider who obviously I'm not a police officer, but the number of times that I've heard, I have to go out drinking at the end of the shift. Otherwise, they're gonna give me a hard time,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like I have to take on the overtime, or they're gonna give me a hard time, or
Yeah, because
like
as a new guy, you gotta pick up the overtime,
all of the things. And I'm just like, I mean, if the only penalty is they're gonna give you a hard time, like,
Right.
pick and choose
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it's time, and when it's just like the guys being
Right,
assholes.
right, and, like, to that point, when you get into the career, you're kinda told some of those things,
Right, yeah.
and it's weird because, you see a lot of the drinking, like, it's kinda like
Hmm.
what they do or what we do type thing,
Hmm.
um, and it's just like, "Oh, if you care about this or if this bothers you, then you're a wimp or something," like,
Hmm.
"This is what we see, you have to deal with it," and it's like, "Okay, guys, like, I got to the point, like, when we talked offline, like, "Okay, calm down, everybody. Like,
Hmm.
we're not the coolest thing since sliced bread, and we're
Yeah.
not that cool, guys." I've always said that, like, it's okay to let some things bother you. We see a lot of things that a lot of people aren't going to see,
Hmm.
um, but no one wants to be that person that speaks up and says, "Hey, that bothered me," because then
Hmm.
again you're gonna get you know, the splashback from your buddies or whatever, then you're worried about what the department's gonna think or what are they gonna say or am I gonna have to go on light duty? Um, and I really wish that would just change.
Yeah, that's a
Because
big piece of the puzzle that needs to
well, it
change.
is, and then you see the bad coping mechanisms, and then a lot of time it
Mhm,
is alcohol, and, and it's like, "Are you drinking that?" 'Cause I've never said this, like, yeah, I still have drinks here and there, and, I like alco whatever, but it's not like it's the tastiest beverage out there, right? Like,
mhm.
so you're chasing it for that high, right? For
Yeah,
that kinda disassociative from everything, if you would, and it's ultimately a downer.
mhm,
So I think when you pair that bad coping mechanism with that substance, it's never works out good, and you start making silly decisions, and then you see the marital issues and whatnot, and it's like, is it really worth that, or is it just going to be okay for me to say, hey, that kind of messed with me, and I'm not okay right now. So
mhm.
how can I find some help and actually get that help instead of just turning to, old Jack Daniels or whatever your choice is. But it's definitely one of those things in the profession where if you talk about it, your people are probably going to talk about you.
Mhm.
And I've always like it's weird. Like I tell people at work, I don't work here to be friends with everybody. If you don't like me, you don't like me. You can say whatever you want to say, but I'm gonna take care of myself at the end of the day, and that's what's important. And then, unfortunately, being a first responder, you probably spend more time with your coworkers than you do with your family. So it is easy to let a lot of the opinions that they may have kind of foster your uh, mind and how you think or what do you think is important and stuff like that, and you could definitely fall into that. But I think it is something that needs to change, and I think that pendulum's kind of swinging back to, I just think in general in the community as a whole,
Mhm.
it's going back towards the wellness side, which is good, a good thing for everybody, because I think there's a lot of people that stay silent.
Yeah, 100%. And part of it just going back to like the concept of the chatter and what's being said about you and all of these things, a lot of it is because of that. And I think
Mhm.
just and to your point, I think it is starting to shift where people are more confident. People are dropping their egos. They're getting more confident saying like, I don't care what you say about me behind my back. And that's half the battle. I mean, the other half is probably like, am I going to be put on light duty? Am I going to lose my gun and my
Right.
badge? These things. But half the battle is the gossip element.
Mhm.
And that's, you know, a problem because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if it just comes down to like what the guys are saying about you, that shouldn't be in the way of you going home to your family alive, healthy, and happy, or you getting the help that you need mentally or physically or whatever it is. Um, so I really appreciate just everything you shared in that perspective. Again, just especially coming from, you know, a young cop with a young family, I really do think like you have your ducks in such a row that it's really great to
At
see
least
and
try.
really encouraging. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Doing your best. That's all we can do.
Yeah, do your best, yeah.
I do have a couple questions about your family life as you're raising your family, and then I want to get into the wellness piece. I definitely
Go
want to
for it.
dive into the
Yeah.
wellness piece more. Um, but we touched on this a little bit very briefly earlier, but when you did switch to being home more, or even when you were on patrol and there were times where you could be home or you could be the one to take the girls wherever they needed to go, how did you sort of fit into the equation? Because I imagine from what it sounds like your wife and your daughters kind of they had their routine. She would drop them off, she would pick them up. They,
Yeah,
did whatever they did when they got home and then there was bedtime and all of these things. And you were sometimes there, sometimes at work. So
right.
when you were there, was there like resistance where it was like, well, we're a well-oiled machine. We know what we're doing, and you're kind of throwing a wrench into things, or were you able to just kind of seamlessly integrate?
It was pretty seamlessly, I seamlessly integrated, if you would. It was kinda one of those things where you look at, "Okay, what is my wife, what can be taken off of her plate?" and
Hmm.
what can I do? So kind of taking some of those stressors that were stressing her the most and
Hmm.
kind of interjecting myself in that realm, which a lot of it was, getting them to school, especially with her being a school teacher as well. You have to be there on the dot. There's no like, hey, I'm
Right.
gonna be 10 minutes late because of traffic. It's like, no, the kids are gonna be in your classroom. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of like, hey, I have to be here at this time. So she's running around trying to get her youngest ready, get her to daycare, then, get her and my oldest to their class. And, after school with teachers, they may have something where now they're talking to a parent or something like that. And it really does truly take a village, not even just as a first responder, but just raising the family as it is.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, we spend a lot of time, sending out a lot of last minute text messages like, hey, can you help us here? Because I'm at work and she has to do this or whatever. So it does take a really big village to make it happen. But like I said, it was kind of just seamlessly. And then, trying to find where I could step in and kind of take some things off my wife's plate so she could have a little bit more peace, if you would, to her day instead of feeling like go, 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 because my husband's at work and I have to get all these things accomplished
Hmm.
in the day. So,
Yeah. Well, good for you, because that just kind of comes back to you being selfless and empathetic and putting yourself in her shoes and
right.
essentially just thinking about her and what she might need,
Yeah, I mean,
which,
and there's definitely times where, I would not think about her. It's like I said, when you're young, you're just like, yeah, I gotta work, dude. Like you knew signing up
right.
into this, that hang on, here you go. That like, hey, you knew getting into this that this was a thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like,
100%. And you hear that a lot. So I think just seeing that growth or hearing about that growth is really awesome. One of your daughters is what? She's like 8?
she just turned 9,
Oh, wow.
but
Okay.
she thinks she's 13. So
All right. Well, oh my gosh. So she is probably starting to understand kind of what you do for work or observe some of the things that you do to prepare for work or whatever it is. Has
yeah.
she like expressed any concern either explicitly or just like maybe passively? Have you noticed anything with her, or is she still maybe too young?
Uh, I'd say some things. So uh, I live in Kansas, so when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and the shooting took place downtown, uh, at the time where I was helping, where a couple of the guys that I was down there with, where we were helping, is where the media is set up. So I was on the TV a lot, and I
Mm,
think that was probably her first time being like, "Oh, why is my dad there?" And they're telling me
mm,
somebody's shooting a gun. Like, why is he there?
mhm,
I think she always kind of had that in the back of her mind, but then seeing like, hey, my dad is actually there, like, holy smokes. I think that was the first time where she was worried, if you would.
mhm.
I think my wife told me that there's some tears there because obviously everybody's watching it. If you couldn't make the parade, you're going to watch the parade, and then you're still watching. And she's
Right.
like, "Whoa, everybody's worried, and my dad's right there. Like, what's going on?" So I
Mm,
think that was her first kind of like, oh, he is a police officer, and this is what police officers do.
mhm.
However, with her being in school and she went to the school where my wife taught, I'd come talk to the kids quite a bit. Um, for them, they'd have like a public safety block, and I was always up because everybody knows like, oh, Miss Wilkes's husband's a cop, so I'd go in there and talk quite a bit. So I was able to explain to her at a early age, through class and home, kind of what police officers do. And so she kind of understands. I'd say fully, maybe not, but I
Mhm.
think the gist of it, yes. She knows dad goes and tries to find bad guys,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but also does other things, So I think she gets it. Now my
She,
youngest, I don't know, she's just she'll probably be
not
the one
yet.
that's like, I want to be a cop, dad, and I'll be like,
Oh no.
oh.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's really interesting. Well, one, it sounds like she has such a like a well-rounded perspective of what you do because she was able to see you like in an educational setting
right.
almost
Yeah,
where
she was.
you're
Yeah.
like sharing about the I mean, one, you're educating them. So literally like as her mom teaches,
Yeah.
you're kind of educating too, but also you're sharing some of the other things that cops do that maybe aren't quite as dangerous or, don't come off as dangerous, at least when you're
Right.
telling
Yeah.
them about it. Um, but then also, she was watching the parade when, you know, horror happened. So
Yeah.
she was kind of exposed to that too. So she's really seen kind of a lot of different elements. But one thing, because I talk about the child's experience, and a lot of times I'll get like not pushback, but a little bit of resistance where it's like, well, I don't drink or I don't bring the job home with me. I don't talk about what I do at home and these
Yeah.
things. So like my kids are fine. My kids don't know what I do for a living.
Right.
But one thing I remember like from growing up was seeing my dad on TV and my friends' parents weren't on TV. So like it doesn't have to be nefarious or negative or scary or bad for it to be different. And like
Obviously.
to your point, I mean, this situation was a shooting, so horror was involved, but just the very basic mundane concept of dad's on TV, like what's that about? I,
Hmm.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is just kind of a curveball as a kid. You're trying to figure
Yeah.
figure out what the hell that even means. Like, that's not an actor. Why is he on TV?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not an actor.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
just think like that's a good example. Again, this was unfortunately like a very horrific situation, but something as simple as why is dad on TV? Why is dad, going to work when no one else's parents are going to work? Like these small things that are normal to the adults in the family because they can understand what is going on stand out to kids. And like
Oh yeah.
unless it's talked about or addressed in some capacity, it's like
Yeah.
they don't know what's going on in their own life.
Well,
And
especially
that's
as
confusing.
like the kids get older, some things that your, cop dad or cop mom's going to think about other than, or, more than probably your friends'
Hmm.
parents, are going to be a little bit different. So when you're asking to do things as you get older, you're probably going to get like well, no, because, or a lot of looking into and, different things that probably, let's say my daughter's Emerson, but her friend Emily's mom's not going to think about, right? Where
A
I'm
hundred
like, well,
percent.
why do we send them there? Because what about this and this and this and that, And
Hmm.
I'm going to try my best as she gets older, not to be kind of that helicopter parent, but it
Yeah.
is hard because we see a lot of things that could happen and that have happened.
Hmm.
Um, so you kind of want to be like that. Where you at? Where you at? What are you doing?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. But I think that's a part of it too, is growing up, like especially for you. Yeah, like when you were growing up, like was your dad ever like, "Hey, I don't know if you should go do that because of this or that," or you know what I mean? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Like
a hundred
it's a
percent.
little
I
bit,
mean, it's really big, like to not have sleepovers.
yeah,
That wasn't necessarily my reality. We were allowed to have sleepovers. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, so things were a little bit different.
right,
But I mean, the internet was just starting to be a thing. So like chat rooms were coming out.
yeah,
Finding your way into chat rooms was a thing. So when I grew up, I was allowed to go to sleepovers, but my parents were super um intentional and mindful about whose house we were sleeping at.
yeah,
I was actually just on another interview last week talking about this because she grew up in a law enforcement home too. And it was something similar. It was like, we weren't completely, quote, missing out on our childhoods or doing what our friends were doing, but we did have another layer of
hmm,
rules, if you will, or hoops that we had to go through. Like my
yeah.
parents had to know the parents. They had to like have a relationship with the parents if we were going to sleep over. Um,
Well, and I think some of that comes to like unspoken trauma. Like I said, like a lot of us don't want to like speak up, but maybe. like I'm saying no for you to go there or do this because I've seen this happen.
Hmm.
And this is how
Yeah.
I'm now realizing like, hey, that event kind of messed with me,
Hmm.
because now I don't even want my daughter to go do that because I'm kind of having a form of PTSD from that day, like because I don't want that to happen to my kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's kind of that thing, like, because it's funny because I ran into a family. They were like, yeah, our kids don't do sleepovers, and I thought that was so interesting and kinda picked their brain on that, but it was because of things like that. The
Hmm.
internet nowadays, the you don't know what's really going on, and especially now, we're guilty of it. Our kids always have a tablet or something in front of them, and as we all know, like, electronics are oddly listening,
Yeah.
the we could say I want a new microwave right now, and then I might have 10 microwaves on my
Yeah.
phone, right? So who knows what's popping up on that phone? There's always parental controls and stuff like that, but that's only going to do so much. So it was kind of interesting to get their perspective because, like you, like we allow our oldest to have a sleepover. But I will say it's mostly with like parents that we know well,
Hmm.
and their kids. And like I like to think, like, hey, they know I'm a police officer, so if they go mess up,
Right. I mean,
I'm
there's always that
a,
element,
yeah,
like
like I'm coming
we're
for
not
you.
the family to screw
Yeah,
with.
yeah, don't mess with my kid.
Yeah, I remember actually it's funny you said that. I just thought of this when so I moved to New York City when I was 20 and it's really expensive to live in New York City.
Yeah,
So my husband, my boyfriend at the time and I got an apartment together so that we could split the rent. And people thought my parents were crazy because we were so young, we're living in a different city and
yeah,
state and all of the things. And I remember someone in a conversation, someone like challenged my dad about it for whatever reason.
yeah,
And he was like, I mean, honestly, if anything happens, I know where he lives. Like, I would
right,
rather her be with someone than by herself. And, I think they understand that if
yeah.
anything is to happen, like,
Yeah, I
it
always say,
won't
like, I
go
think
unnoticed.
every police officer, kinda has their list of people that's like, "I'll lose my job for that person," so,
Right.
it's okay.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I have mine, and yeah, my kids and wife are on it, I'm like, "Don't mess with them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I
Don't mess with
think
them."
to your point of just these things that like people don't like, your daughter's friend Emily's mom doesn't think about these things. There's so many of those things and they're so small. And again, they are examples of these small, mundane, non-nefarious things that alter the lifestyle and the perspective of law enforcement children. And my mom and I were actually talking about it last night. Not this, but an example is we always check the back seat of our car before we get in the car.
Yeah,
And that's not something my friends have ever done. That's not something anyone else does except
yeah,
me and my husband, but he's a veteran. So like that and it's not because I live in fear. I've never lived in fear. I've never felt scared of what could be in the back seat, but it was just like this is something you do. You
yeah,
just make sure there's no one in your back seat when you get in the car because that
right.
could be bad.
Well,
And
what's
it's
the
like, "Oh yeah.
famous one, right? Like, it's always a first responder, like, "Oh, we don't want our back to the door," you
Yeah.
know? I mean, and I always tell people, and my wife's on me all the time. She was like, "You're talking to this person, but you never make eye contact." And it's like, well, because at my job when I'm talking to somebody, I'm also looking
Looking
around,
around."
to
Hmm.
make sure that I'm safe, right? Nobody's coming up behind me, or there's no weapons, laying out that this person has access to, or something like that. So it is, I try to be a little bit more intentional about it now, and make really good eye contact if I'm talking to somebody like face to face. Like, okay, my wife tells me I got to look at them in the eye, you know.
In the back of
But
your mind.
it's like one of those things that I never really noticed, that I was doing that.
Hmm.
So my daughter's here. Of
That's
course,
okay.
she wants a show, see, on the side. Um, and you don't really, uh, think about it, right? But
Yeah.
it is one of those things, it's like, yeah,
And that's an
yeah,
interesting example
natural.
too, because like, so I don't have that. My dad wasn't big on the door thing, so I don't have any
Mhm.
like memories of that, but it is a big one, especially like even among adult law enforcement kids that I talk to. And it's something that like I can't tell you how many of them adopted it. And like it was never a conversation. It's not like, you know, they were sat down and said like dad has to face the door because someone with a gun might
Yeah.
come through. Like it was never a conversation. It was just like more of a generally understood concept that dad sits in
Mhm.
that seat and might watch the door. Um, and from that, they adopted it in their own adult lifestyle, even if they didn't go on to be in law enforcement
Yeah.
or first responding or anything like that. It's just something that they adopted. And it's so crazy to me and interesting to me because, again, it's just another example of like these small little things really do
Mhm.
just like chip off, flake off, and impact the lives of the people that you're raising. They're
Yeah.
impressionable minds. They say that
Yeah.
for a reason.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely been times, I can pick somebody out of a crowd now. So like not only do I don't want my like back to the door, but I'm also my wife's always like, you check everybody out. Like you're just up and down. I'm like, man, I just want to see what they got, like just in case, like they
Yeah.
get again. Like I want to know, like, hey, say open carry, like open carry in cans. Well, now I know that guy's open carrying. Like glad I know that. Check, he's over there in the corner.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
but I was like, or like I can pick up and we've definitely been in situations where somebody's acting strange or in like the first responder world, like suspicious, right? I could pick up on it. I would like kind of guide my family away, like that dude's he's over there, like he's obviously on drugs or whatever, or he has ill intentions somehow, some way, and it. My wife's always just like, I don't know how you noticed that, and I'm like, I was just
Hmm.
looking around, yeah, but they're
Yeah.
so just focused on like the menu or the burger they're
Right,
about to
right.
eat or like their beverage, where we're just constantly, and I it is one of those things, like, I try to like, people are like, "You have to turn work off. You have to turn work off." Like, some of those things are just gonna be so embedded in you like that, like,
Hmm.
you're just because 'cause you're a protector, right? And I'm
Right.
out in public with my family, so I wanna make sure that they're safe too, so I don't, just say, "Screw it,"
Hmm. Yeah,
and turn
exactly.
off all, whatever, but, it's definitely, like you said, some things that are just, ingrained, and I'm probably pretty sure my daughter will do the same thing because she knows, like, we go somewhere and sit and, like, they'll like attempt to get the chair that's like probably the chair I want, and they're like, "Oh no, Dad, that's
There you
definitely
go.
definitely
Yeah.
that's the spot." Like,
Right. They're
'cause
picking
my
up
thing
on
too
it.
is like it's even like I hate booths. So if I get like
Hmm.
a booth seat at a restaurant, I'm like, I'm not sitting in the booth. I want on the edge, please.
Mm, that's
And
so
so it's like
funny.
little stuff like that that
Yeah.
it's always as soon as we go out to eat, like, and I'll let everybody sit. I'm like, nope, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, because you don't want to be that person that has to like come out and be like, no, I must sit like right
Right,
right here.
right.
So you kind of just naturally like let everybody flow in, and then you're like, all right,
Yeah.
that's my
And then
seat.
they pick up. They
Yeah,
understand. All right, I better
that's
sit
my
here so
seat.
that dad
Yeah.
can have his seat open.
Well, and it's
Um,
goes on to the thing too. It's like I know we talked about it a little bit offline, but it's like, okay, dad goes to work with a gun, but now dad always has a gun on him. Like, what is
mhm.
going on? Like, is somebody after him? And and a lot of law enforcement officers carry off duty, and it's funny because I could talk to like a lot of veterans and stuff like that. And recently talking to one, he was like, 'cause I love veterans. I thank them for the service all the time. And a lot of times they're like, no, they're throwing it back at me. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And they're like, well, when we're in war, like we're over there, we know where the war zone is, right?
Mhm.
You come back here and we're off, right? We're not worried about, a bomb coming to hit us or whatever
Right.
it may be, to where like you guys not only do you have to go work that profession, you have to like live in it too. Like you can
Mhm.
never essentially be off, right? Because you can have an encounter with somebody like, yeah, this is the city that you police, but you can have an encounter with this person who's from a whole different city or a different county, and that's just visiting your city, and now you have
Mhm.
this encounter, and now maybe you, unbeknownst to you, you're now in their hometown, and then here they come,
Yep.
like, hey, yeah, that's that officer that, XYZ took me to jail or whatever, because we are, you know, taking people's civil liberties away. Like we're putting you in jail, that
Mhm.
people don't want to go. That's why people run from us. They fight. They don't want to go there. So sometimes, you never know when that person's going to be like, oh yeah, that's that guy that put me in there for 5 years, a year, whatever. I'm going to go get him, so
Yeah, and you're like, I'm just trying to eat my food in peace, and
right.
it's
Like, hey
like you
man,
never
this
know what's going to
cheeseburger just
happen,
looks good, like
right?
I eat this.
Exactly. Well, okay, so I will say with your I think you called it like being suspicious and looking at everybody, watching them, checking them out up and down, all of the things. I think with that example in particular, because I've actually thought about that one quite a bit, because
Hmm.
my dad did it, my husband does it, like it's a thing. Um, but I think that's one of the ones that's actually really beneficial,
Absolutely.
because it like for the kids and maybe even, as time goes on for your wife, it's like you might be more suspicious and jaded when you're looking at people, but when it sort of trickles down to the people around you, it becomes being observant and
Oh yeah.
like observing your surroundings. So
Oh,
like
absolutely.
you might be looking at someone thinking, all right, he's shady as hell. Your kid or your wife might be looking at them thinking, I'm going to remember that person for whatever reason.
Well,
And like,
knowing my wife, she's, like, always errs on the side of, like, kindness. She's, like, the most sweetest person ever. So she's probably like, Honey, like,
well, good, you
he
balance each other out.
just needs some help." And I'm like, I don't know about that."
Good, you balance each other out and you haven't jaded her. That's
Yeah, yeah,
perfect. That's
no.
amazing.
I don't think I think that'd be a tall task for her, so.
But I mean, like I was always like that too. I'm very like rose-colored glasses, but I am observant. So
Mhm.
like I will notice things, or if something has to, if I have to be asked to recall something, I can just because, you know, again, it's not nefarious. It's not because we were always on edge watching the people around us. It's
Right.
just we observed things. We were always taught that it was important to know what was going on around you and not
Yeah,
look at the ground.
pay attention, yeah.
And that develops into a really good skill, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I want to sort of switch gears a little bit, and you just mentioned you're exposed to veterans a lot. You work with veterans. So let's talk about the Go Further initiative. This is your nonprofit, right?
Correct, yep.
So how did this idea kind of first come to fruition? Well, what is it and how did it kind of come to fruition?
And so it first started off, I've always been into fitness. It always kind of grounded me in the job is, like working out and, I can get on that tangent why it's, important for first responders, etc. But I went and got certified to be a personal trainer. And I was like, well, I want to train first responders, you know. And then what you find is, people want the discount or the homie hookup. And really, it's like, okay, well, I don't really need this for like, I don't want to do it for money, so you're
Hmm.
starting to do a lot of things, whatever, for cheap, whatever it may be. And then just being around in a community and with other people. And then, like we said, I met Will. Not in St. Louis. I hope he listens to this because he'll love that I'm bringing this up. But because he holds his hat, he says that I was scared to come talk to him.
Uh-oh.
But we were in the same vicinity or whatever, and I was like, man, who's this large man over here that everybody is like, hey, going up to Will, like, and I was like, man, who is this dude? Like, all right, whatever. And we follow each other on Instagram, and I see what he does, this, that. And I got to talking to him. I was like, man, that'd be cool. Like, I want to do something like that. And he's really mentored me. He's been huge, mentoring me, and and setting up to Go Further initiative and stuff like that. So he's definitely played a big part and getting this going. But really, like for me, it comes down to like being in the world of first responders. I feel um, like you come into work and just everybody just looks so miserable.
Hmm.
Like you're just like, I don't know, are you tired or what's going on? I don't know. They're
Hmm.
just like blah. And I've always kind of been like an energetic person, and people are always like, dude, you just have too much energy. And I'm like, well, why don't you have energy?
Right.
And like we
That
spoke
comes
about
back
this.
to like what's accepted and normalized and shouldn't be.
Well, right, and exactly. We go back to like the bad coping mechanism and this and that, and you talk about like how we already mentioned, like you're just told like, hey, you have to have a dark sense of humor. You have to just deal with the things that we go through and this and that. And I was like, okay. And you've interviewed Will, like he's veteran focused. He
Hmm.
does sort of first responders as well. But we stay first responder focused because I feel like um, it's definitely something that needs to be, the initiative needs to be taken, right? Um, and I was like, okay, this is what I want. So I switched from personal training. I was like, hey, I'll like fund you now to go get healthy, you know. And not only, for your family and for yourself and this and that, but also, I say it's very important too, because you signed up to protect and serve a community, so you need to be able to do that to the best of your ability, and that's being physically and mentally healthy, right? Because ultimately people are calling you on their worst day, and you need to be able to physically show up and mentally be there to protect them and serve them. And a lot of it, and even as we're getting rolling, like, I did this first responder workout, and I'm reaching out to other people, at different departments, and I'm like, hey, get them out here, and they're like, oh, nobody at my department or my station works out. And
Hmm?
I'm like, what? None of them? Like, you, not even one? And I'm sure that's probably false, a little dramatic, but it is. It's something that you can get very complacent in. But we're always told, and you hear it a lot in first responder word, like complacency kills.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be complacent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, like fitness for me also helps with my mental health. I mean, there's tons of studies to show out,
Oh,
how
yeah.
it goes together and stuff like that. And that's my way, but that may not be everybody's way. So we do the mental health counseling, if needed and stuff like that. And I think a huge one is we actually recently reached out to a counselor. They reached out to us, whatever, we connected, but he does marriage counseling. And I was like, that's
Oh, wow.
huge. Me and my wife have done that. Because that is, all the stats that, go behind first responders that maybe the public don't see is like the divorce rates at like 75%. And it's like, well, why is this happening? And it can't always just be the job or whatever. And you hear from fellow first responders, well, you're not a cop or you're not a firefighter if you don't have two divorces. And it's like, what? That's weird. And then some of the other ones is like our life expectancy is 57 years of age, which is not old. It's
Mm-mm.
not old at all. Like a lot of us are trying to retire at like 50, 55. So you're saying, you know, a couple years after I retire, I'm supposed to die, or my chance to die is
The
way up.
statistic says yes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, whoa, that's crazy. And then I can't remember, like, don't quote me on this one, but it was something like we're 45% more likely to have a heart attack by like the age of 40 or something
I
like that.
think it's like 30 to 60% more likely, which is a pretty
Yeah,
big range. But
yeah,
yeah, something
yeah.
around that.
But
The
it's like
median would be.
incredible. And like the cardiologist I talked to, he was like, we really don't even know why. Like we've done studies, but it's just a thing. And then you see like our suicide rates, they go up, and a lot of, like, I always like to say, on the news what you'll see is, the officer or the firefighter died, being shot at or in an accident or running in a burning building. But what you don't hear about is the suicide or the heart attack that killed a first responder, something
Hmm.
like that. And I look at it as we have to control the controllables, and the two things that we can control is our physical fitness and our mental health. And we have to actually learn to give a crap about it and not just say, oh well,
Hmm.
like get out there and be active. Kind of the slogan I came up with is stronger minds, or stronger bodies, excuse me, stronger bodies, stronger minds, better lives, better service. So it's kind
I
of
love
just like
that.
all kind of like encompassing there. Like we have to take care of ourselves. And I can't even preach that more than it's just incredible just to see the amount of people that are complacent or just don't have to drive to do so. And it's really just getting out there and making and putting that awareness out there, because it's definitely needed in our community of first responders. And it really would help drive some of those stats down of the heart disease, the suicide, because it's too, like, those two things are on us. Like we have
Hmm.
to take care of ourselves to get those down. And then it also will help like longevity. Like if you do want to retire, you have that foundation of like, hey, I always worked out, not saying it's like the, if you work out, like you're going to go live to be 90, but
No, but
hey,
yeah, it
you're going to
serves
help.
you.
Yeah, it's gonna serve you. It's gonna help you out, and you're just gonna be healthy, and again, it's like not only for yourself and your health, but it's going to help you do your job. You know,
Hmm.
it's funny. I was talking to somebody, I mean, a couple days ago, because there's now, like, we all wear body cameras. Police
Hmm.
officers are everywhere on the internet, right? And I always wonder how many of these situations, whether let's say it's an officer that had to shoot somebody, right? It was an officer involved shooting. Could it have been avoided if the officer was in better shape?
Mm.
Or could this fight would ended better if the officer was in better shape, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of that probably is a yes, so there's that side of it too. Like you're gonna be more confident in your job, and then it also helps with too, like if I'm a bad guy, right? I mean, I think there was a study out where they interviewed somebody that got into an officer involved shooting. Well, they like shot an officer, let's say that. And it was in prison, and they were like, I guess they were stopped. I want to say it was like by a trooper, several miles before they were stopped by the county deputy that he ended up shooting with. He was like, well, the trooper got out and he looked well put together. He looked, presentable, and he was like, no. Well, then the deputy, got out and he decides to shoot this one, just because the officer presence wasn't there, right? And we talk a lot about that even when we're training new officers and this and that. We're all about officer presence, right? And a lot of that too is holding in yourself, being a fit, able body, and wearing a clean uniform could prevent a lot of things too. So it's one of those. It goes hand in hand. It helps you, helps your family, but it also helps the community. I can go on
Yeah.
and on about it. I'm just so passionate about it because I think it's just huge. And a lot of people, they get at my department, they get tired of hearing me like, oh, he wants us to do a workout, or he wants us to do this, and I'm like, well, a lot of times too, if you do hard things with friends, like the camaraderie builds.
Yeah, let's work out instead of drink ourselves into oblivion.
Oh, right. Like let's go do something. And you're going to gain respect for that person. And it's just a different bond when you're doing hard things together, right? We're already out here on the road and this and stuff, working calls, going from here to there. And the other part of it too is like, I want to be able to show up for you. Like if you're down and you need help, I want to be able to get there and actually offer help and not just be a body, you know?
Hmm.
Or like I like to flip it back to people when I'm talking to first responders, like, hey, if your family was in dire need, like they are being held hostage, do you want yourself to show up or would you want somebody else to show up? Look at yourself in the mirror. Like, if it's not yourself that you want showing up, then we need to be doing something. If you're going to be like, well, no, I want Officer X, Y, and Z to go because he's,
Jacked.
he's in shape or he's a really good shot too. He trains hard. It's like, well, why aren't you doing those things? Like it can be
Yeah.
you too, but you have to want to take that initiative to go be better. And that's just kind of why I got into it and why I love it. I'm so passionate about it because it's all hand in hand. And I think not only do you owe it to your family and yourself and your brothers and sisters that you serve with, but you also owe it to the communities that you signed up to protect and serve at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
And I think you made a good point too about controlling the controllables because especially in this job, there are a lot of things that you can't control. You're not going to be able to control if the bad guy runs away from you or if the bad guy comes at you, or a lot of times you can't control the stupid schedule. Like there are a lot of things that you can't control. So if you just kind of dial it back and
Yeah,
control the things that you can control, which in a lot of cases is your mental and physical fitness,
yeah,
um, that will serve you in those moments. Quite literally, if the
yeah,
suspect is
absolutely.
fleeing, you can chase them, but also just like it'll help you stay grounded in general in your life because when you're pissed that you got put on nights after being on days or whatever, you got called into work on Christmas, if the rest of the other elements are being controlled because you can control them, then you can navigate those situations
Yeah.
that much better because you're in the right headspace.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like you're saying, we control what we decide to put in our body, what we decide to do
Hmm.
with our body, whether it's workout or whatever. We also control like our thoughts and stuff like
Hmm.
that, right? So, like you're saying, if I am more like I'm prepared, if you would, or like have a foundation that to kind of lean on, then I'm just going to be more prepared to handle this situation or handle this adversity or handle the stressor of the day, something like that. Sorry, my daughter just handed me her phone. So yeah, see, real life, guys, real life. I have kids. I
Literally,
promise.
yeah. I love it. It's
It's
amazing.
crazy, but yeah, it's like you have to be able to control those things. And I like to tell people too, like I'll be darned if I was in heaven, perhaps I died in the line of duty, and it was something like I just couldn't last that 30-second fight or something like that. I was out of it
Right.
and he got the best of me. And now I'm watching, my family grieve this, and it's all because I just didn't decide to take 25, 30 minutes out of my day to take care of
Hmm.
myself, so I could perform on the clock, right? And that's what it comes down to sometimes for me. Like when I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to do these things. I'm not the person that's like, oh, every single day I want to work out, no matter what, this and that. There's
Hmm.
definitely days where I'm like, I really don't want to go. But it's like, not only am I showing up for myself, but I'm showing up for my family. I'm showing up for my community. Because at the end of the day, as soon as I go 10 a.m. service, I put on this uniform. I'm out there protecting and serving. But I'm also now, my wife has a sense of comfort that, like, okay, well, I know if my
Right.
husband
Hmm.
runs into a situation that he is equipped to handle it, to the best of his ability, and not like, oh wow, my husband had to fight today. Like, oh, are you okay? It's just like
She has confidence,
the
another level of
confidence, and
confidence
and that's what it
and
does too
comfort.
for officers too. Like, you start taking care of yourself, you start performing better because you are more confident in your abilities, and you're not more apt to go to some of your tools on your belt or something like that. You're like, hey, I'm confident in this too. So, I hand-to-hand combat right now instead of
Hmm.
going to a different tool and relying on that, because I always tell people, like, all the tools we carry, yeah, that's real great, but they don't work if you can't.
Hmm.
Like, you have to be able to work too.
Yeah, and I think this is all more specifically like your thought process around like facing God. It just all kind of goes back to like it all reflects your self-awareness and your ability to reflect, which I think we need more of, especially in this profession. And I
Absolutely.
think, people like Will, you guys are really setting that standard and leading by example and giving permission to others to do the same, even if it seems silly or woo-woo or annoying or whatever it is.
Well, and I think the biggest one is like the mental health side of things. And like I tell people all the time, like, yeah, there's mental health, but for me, a lot of times the things that stuck with me, it was like a challenge on my faith, if you would.
Mhm.
Because say something horrific happened to this family, I'm sitting and like I'm like, why? Like, God,
Yeah.
like, what was behind this? Like, what's the bigger picture, I guess? Because this is very traumatic. This sucks. Like, I'm dealing with it, not let alone I'm sitting here watching this family grieve this, and I have to sit here and act like it's not messing with
Mhm.
me. But really, I'm like sitting back in my patrol car, like, dude, like, God, like, why would I'm really not understanding this one, or whatever it may be. Like, why did this, like, a lot of first responders, our calls that get us are kids, right? You're like,
Mhm.
why did that, young kid just pass away, like, in these type of circumstances? Like, what was behind this? That's what would always stick with me. And that's where you see a lot of these things coming, like we were talking about your parents being like helicopter parents, because you've now seen this and that stuck with you, no matter whatever tough guy suit that you want to put on, that stuck with you. And that's why now you are parenting or making decisions the way you are making them, because that did stick with you. And as much as you want to say, like, oh, that didn't bother me or this and that, it definitely bothered you.
Yeah, yeah, because at the end of the day, you are a human. I don't care
Hmm.
how badass you are or how badly you want to think you're Batman.
Yeah.
Like, you are still a person, whether you like it or not. Deep
Yeah.
down inside, you're
Absolutely.
a human, just
Well,
like
yeah.
the rest of us.
Absolutely, and like I like to say, we're not machines, we're people.
100%.
We have families, and a lot of times, unfortunately, when we put on a uniform, a lot of people think that we're a machine and like we just should do
Hmm.
what is right too. And but at the end of the day, we're people.
Yeah.
Um, and I respect all the other cops, first responders, etc. Because sometimes when you kind of just sit back and think about what we do and like the decisions that we do have to make, you're like, wow, like, this is actually
It's crazy.
pretty incredible. Like, like, you have to kind of give yourself a pat on the back every once in a while, and and lift up your brothers and sisters, because it's remarkable, the things that we sign up to do and that we do. But it is also important that we don't lose sight that we have to be
Hmm.
healthy to continue to do them. to the best of our ability. And I can't harp on it even any more than like it's for you, it's for your family, and it's for your community. Like it, and I don't know if I told you this when we spoke offline, but like me and my wife did that trend, like, can your little cop husband catch you in
Oh,
a
chasing you.
whatever. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we did it. A lot of people, our friends are sending it to us. They know we're big into fitness and this and that. And they're like, oh, you guys have to do it. We were on vacation in Wisconsin and we ended up doing it and it went viral. Well, the thing that I paid attention the most to is like the comments, like dogging other cops and like how I was like, a certain percentage of cop are like where I live, the cops would never, they're all fat, they're all this, they're all that. And I'm like, man, how, like, what percentage of the population actually, they just think we're slobs, like we have
Yeah,
to be better, and I will give it up to the firefighters. Like those dudes work out more than cops. I'll tell you that right now.
100%.
And maybe they have more time, whatever you want to say, but they're also not making excuses. And with the time
Hmm.
that they do get, they're making themselves better. They're always posting videos on social media of them working out, or I see them outside because we have a fire department at our station that is in our back lot. Essentially, they're always out there doing group workouts, and I'm like, they probably look at the PD like, "Hey, we never see you guys out doing group workouts."
Yeah.
There's a few of us that get after it, and we'll run laps, etc., out in the back lot. But I wondered their thoughts on it too, and I can only speak from it from like the police officer's view because I mean that's the world I'm in, and there isn't like I mean there's a handful of us that use the PD gym or
Hmm.
and I'm like guys, and I'm not saying everybody needs to go in there and do crazy intense workouts and
Hmm.
lift the world or whatever, but you can at least go in there, use the treadmill, extra like movement's medicine. If you just want to walk, walk. If you want to do Pilates, do Pilates. You want to do yoga, do something. If you just want to do, 10 push-ups a day, do 10 push-ups a day, do something.
Hmm.
And another example I like to use too is like when I'm talking to people about fitness and mental health, and you think about the times where you're stressed or you want somebody to leave you alone, this and that. A lot of people are like, oh, that's it. What do you, they start pacing, they start walking in a circle, whatever. And I'm like, what you're doing right there is movement and it's medicine, like, and
Hmm.
now you come back 10 minutes later and you're like, all right, I'm ready to have this conversation now. And it's like, you're ready to do that just because you started moving, there's
Yeah. You
like,
processed it
it,
physically.
yeah. And being in the first one, like we always have, like your departments have, like say, like a little wellness clinic or something like ours does, whatever, and you go there, and it's like, oh, they're just, I never hear it say, hey, the doc told me that I need to start working out, right? It's like they say, oh, here's a try this pill, try this, try
Hmm.
that. And I'm not here to bash doctors, but like I don't really like doctors. When I was young, I was told one thing by another doctor, and they were like completely opposites. Like one was like, no more sports because your heart's too big, and one was like, no, you're okay. And I'm like, uh,
Mm.
like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa,
What do I
whoa,
do
whoa.
with this?
Like, this doesn't make any sense. I was just told I couldn't even run, like, anyways. But it's like, and it's funny. I was talking with my wife about this last night. Like, how many times have you gone to the doctor, and it's like, especially first responders, and it's like, do you drink more than 3 drinks a week? And you click no because you're like, I'm not telling them.
Yeah.
No. Do you use tobacco? No.
Oh, of course
And
not.
it's yeah, and you're like, everybody clicks no, right? So they don't even know, but really you're like sitting in there, like, well, I had 3 drinks last night, but I'm not
Or
telling.
they're like, 3 drinks isn't that bad. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna say
right.
no.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say no. Like I did a whole can of dip on midnight last night. I'm not telling them that I use tobacco. They're gonna give me something goofy, or give me some spiel. So you just lie on those things, but the doc never really. And it's they're never. I mean, that you probably hear it a little bit more nowadays of like, hey, you need to start working out or this or
Hmm.
that, and but it really isn't a thing that you hear a lot. But I think it's the best medicine. Start taking care
Yeah.
of yourself, and it starts. I say taking care of your like physical fitness is like the first step to taking care of your mental health, uh,
Hmm.
because it's I call it like a waterfall effect, because I've definitely been on the other side too, where I was drinking a whole bunch, and all those other things, not caring, being a first like you're like, oh, I have Tuesday, Wednesday off. Like, who cares if I'm out, till midnight? I'm off tomorrow. I don't have anything to do. you know, whatever.
Future you cares.
Yeah, yeah, but the true you cares, and it's like then as soon as you get back into fitness, like what happens? Like you're starting to eat more at home, finances go up, right? You're more intentional what you're spending money on, and it all just goes down because of like what's one of the biggest stressors just in society, finance, right?
Finances.
So you start taking care of different things and you become disciplined in other areas, and it kind of all just works its way down.
Hmm.
But it all starts with you wanting to step up and take the initiative to take control of it. And it's your life, right? We don't like we're just passing through, right? Um,
Yeah. You got
and
to make it what you
yeah,
want it to be.
yeah, and I don't want to be, older in life and like can't play with my kids or something, or
Hmm.
like I just don't have the desire to, or I don't have the fitness level to, or something
The
like that.
energy.
The energy, yeah. And it's crazy is speaking on energy, people are like, "Oh, you must be tired all the time, all the working out you do." I'm like, "No, actually the workout gives me energy." That's how that
Yeah.
works.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Once you
how
get
that
past
works.
like the initial threshold, you'll
Yeah.
start to, it'll repay you in energy.
Right, like,
Promise.
you're gonna get more energy actually going to spend energy, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
So it's just it's hand in hand. I can go on and on about it, but I do think it's important. And if you're a first responder out there and you're wondering like, "Oh, should I start working out?" Yes, you should start working out today,
The answer is
not
yes.
tomorrow. Like, the biggest thing we did, Will took us down to a summit at First Form, and one of the speakers said, "Start before you're ready." And it's always stuck with me because you hear it all the time. Well, I'll start that when I'm ready, or in a couple months, I'll be ready. Like, you're never truly ready. Like, you're not going to be ready for anything. And you hear it a lot too, like, say, in normal folks' world of, with kids, like, we'll have kids when we're ready. You know,
Yeah, well,
you're never
that's not a
going to be
thing.
ready for kids. Like, you don't know it's going to, it's, you're never ready.
Yeah.
So you just have to do it and you figure out along the way,
Hmm.
and that was me. Like, I'm a first responder. I want to do a nonprofit. I'm like, you have a little bit of an idea, right? But I'm like, I'm not like a businessman,
Right.
like I'm not like coming, from a whole bunch of wealth or something like, I'm tossing money into an idea or something like that. And it's definitely like you form it and you reach out to folks like Will who, have successful nonprofits and stuff like that. And you start learning and grabbing things and adding tools to your toolbox to learn and continue along the way. And, we're still learning, we do events and like after one, like we call it a debrief and
Hmm.
we debrief them and I'm like, oh, we could have done this better or we could have done that better. Or, I mean, it's a learning process. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's working out or if it's taking care of my mental health or whatever the thing may be, you just need to start and you figure it out along the way. But you also have to be vulnerable and be willing to speak up and reach out for help because you're not going to have all the answers to everything. You
Hmm.
know, you're going to constantly be learning. And if you're not learning every day, then I don't know, like maybe you should be like the world's smartest man and
Yeah.
like we should be reading
Good
about
luck.
you, but I don't
Yeah.
think there's anybody out there that knows everything, right?
Right.
It's back that it takes a village and you have to be willing to be vulnerable and reach out and tell people, hey, I don't know the answer for this, can you help me? you know
Exactly.
and that's what it
Exactly.
is. And I'm big on vulnerability because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to put that out. I'm like, no, I'll put it out. I mean, because the more you speak up about it, then somebody else is gonna be like, me too.
Hmm.
Hey, hey, hey. Like I don't know of any person that's ever been vulnerable and then like sat back in the room and was like, okay, now I'm an outcast. A lot of people are gonna be like, hey, I love that you shared that story and that happened to me too. Or,
Yep.
hey, how did you navigate that? And it's all because you spoke up, you know.
Hmm.
And it
And we need a
doesn't.
lot more of that.
Right, absolutely, and you have to speak up, and I like to tell people too, like whether it's taking care of your mental health or your physical fitness or whatever it may be, starting a business. Like you're on day one, yes, it's going to be scary, but day 30, if you've made it that month or whatever, you're going to be like, wow, I've came so far. I am so happy I did this. This is the
Hmm.
best I've ever been, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I say go further initiative because it's like you can always do more. The only limit on your life or whatever there is the one that you put on yourself. So if you want to put a cap on it, I mean, whatever, I
Don't
wouldn't
you?
just go, that's on you, but there's always more. always more. And there's always more work to be done. And there's no limit on success. Like, take it to the moon. Like, let's go. I mean,
Yeah,
'cause at the end of the day, you could sit there and say something happens, and you could sit there and be like, dang, I wish I would have done that. Or I wish I could have, or something like that. Like, I don't want to live a life where I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that.
hmm
I wish I would
yeah.
have woke up. I
You want
wish
to
I
at least
would have done.
try.
Yeah, like, I'm at least going to try. And I mean, maybe you fail, maybe you don't. You don't know, right? But the only time you fail is when you quit. You know, you keep
Exactly.
going, you're gonna get it figured out.
Yeah, 100%. So with the Go Further initiative, what programs, what exactly is the offering?
So we do the gym memberships as well for first responders.
So you fund memberships for people to join like regular gyms.
Yep, absolutely. So we do a year paid in full, and then we do personal training. It's all kind of like with the personal training, and then we'll do physical therapy as well. A lot of that will be situational dependent.
Hmm
So say personal training, if you're doing like a one-on-one setting, right? Say if I go and I'm like, hey, Catherine, you're a personal trainer. I want you to work with Officer John Doe. Well, he does a session with you and he's like, oh, we don't really vibe. It doesn't really make sense for me to go ahead and pay for a whole bunch of sessions, right?
hmm
Now we'll pay for the first session and then say, they're like, hey, I love Catherine. She teaches me a lot. I think this is going to be a good fit. But I don't know if I have the funds to do so. Okay, well, we got you. Like, hey, we'll do 3 months, 6 months, or what would you need? What's going to suit you so you can still receive the help that you need, and we'll take care of it so you're seeing those benefits. And the same with the physical therapy. We do that as well. We take care of the initial visit. A lot of times, like we see it, we're actually getting ready to send a first responder. He has a shoulder labrum tear. So it's actually an appointment, I think, today. We'll take care of that initial, but he was like, I need some exercise. I don't really know how to rehab this. But
hmm
the doctor I said I could do, XYZ couple weeks of rehab and kind of see, because I don't want surgery, right? I think all first responders, like, our biggest fear is being put on light duty. Like,
Yeah,
we don't want the crappy jobs.
yeah,
And you hear a lot of first responders are always my back, my shoulders, my this. We
always.
don't know how important mobility is. And a lot of people, like even me, I'm always worked out, but like I don't know like mobility and
Hmm
joints and how they work. Like, I still go to the physical therapist like when I need, help. So that's been a huge hit too, is just getting folks in there, making sure that they're moving correctly, making sure they're working without pain. Another thing that we do is comprehensive blood work. So it focuses a lot on the hormone side. So with shift work, all the stressors, etc., cortisol dumps, all this other things. A lot of times you put those to the side, um, and you'll get your regular panels done, and everything looks great, but they don't really look at the hormone
Yeah.
levels. So the place we work with New Age Health and Wellness here in Leawood. Mike and his crew are great. We send quite a bit of people there, and we sponsor the blood work, and then it's on them to any other treatment that they want
hmm
after that. But at least they get to see the markers of their blood work, where they're
You have
at.
the
Yeah,
information.
the information. And I mean, it's a full panel. Like, you're looking at a lot of things,
Hmm
right? And because a lot of it does come down to like hormone optimization and stuff like that. And there's a lot more, like, people are becoming more outspoken about that stuff too,
hmm
because not like, let's feel the best we can, right? So we do that, and then on the backside of our mission, we do chronic illness, line of duty death, all that good stuff. Critically injured, we make donations to those families as well. So we've done some pretty unique things with our
Yeah.
mission, as it focuses on the holistic approach of being healthy, and not just a single approach. So I think that's important. And we even look into like, we want to start incorporating, spouses and stuff like that, because I think, that's they're like the hidden gem that doesn't get any love, right?
hmm
Because really they're holding a lot of the fort down on their own. And so it's important that they're being taken care of too, because I mean, that's the reason why we're able to do this job, is because we have, them in our corner. And sometimes they get overlooked, but I think that they deal with some of the things that we do deal with, just in a different light. And we need to make sure that they're healthy as well.
Yeah.
Indefinitely. So, like you said, it's a teamwork thing. I don't
Hmm.
want to be thriving and they're not, right. Uh,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah, I love that, like the holistic view. So how do people kind of take advantage of your program? Is it like they learn about you, they sign up? I don't know, they're not great about asking for help. So do
right.
they have to
And
be nominated? Like, how does that all work?
so yeah, so they could definitely be nominated through our website, which is gofurtherinitiative.com. And the way we've done like some of our gym memberships now is, I kind of do like some secret squirrel work, if you would. I'll
Yeah.
see one at the gym, whatever, and I'll be like, I can get their name, or I'll, ask the gym owner, like, hey, what's that guy's name? And we'll go ahead and sponsor for the full year because, like you said, first responders, we suck at asking for help.
Hmm.
We're 911. People call us for help. We don't need help. We're good.
Right.
So when I remember when I was first trying to find a recipient for the first gym membership, like I would reaching out to all these people, like, hey, this is what we'd like to do. And they're like, oh, there has to be somebody so much better than me and
Hmm.
this and that. And I was like, okay, like, because you just don't want to force it on somebody. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we started working kind of behind the scenes and we'd go ahead and do it. And people were like, oh, this is so amazing. But as far as like the personal training and the physical therapy, and the bigger that we get, people are starting to come to us, naturally, and
That's
and
great.
ask questions, and hey, how can I get this service or something like that? And it's been good, but it's a lot of it is preaching from the mountaintops and getting it out there, and raising that awareness and letting people know what we do,
Hmm.
first, and then it kind of starts coming in. So we're doing a 9/11 Heroes tribute run this Saturday, and we did packet pickup yesterday, and two folks came in to pick up their packet, and they just got to talking about it. Well, then it ends up both of their son-in-laws are first responders. One a cop, one's a firefighter, and I was like, get them out here, like let them know what we do because we're here to support
Hmm.
their physical and mental health journey or whatever it may be, out there. And it like these are the services we have, and we'd love for them to take advantage of them, because it is something that's different. What we do
Yeah.
is, a lot of these organizations, like they have their place. I love them all. Not trying to bash them, but it's a lot of it's after the fact, right? Like,
Yes.
we give the family this money, this person died, whatever. But it's like, what are we doing to be proactive and get in front of these things, to actually make sure that these first responders and people in the community are living healthy, long lives, like they're not
Hmm.
just drowned in. And you look at today's world, like it is important because if I mean, there for a while, like on the news, it's like first responders are the demons of the world, right? Like, and it's like,
Hmm.
no, we're actually here to help. And I've always said, like, body cameras, there's a plus to it and there's a negative to it, but I'm like, put body cameras on everybody, you're gonna find bad apples.
Yeah.
Every profession has a bad apple that could ruin any profession. Um and I hate to see it, but it you turn on the TV there for a while, and it's like you're sitting at home like, why do I even do this job sometimes?
Hmm.
Because there's just people don't even like me. Like, what am I doing? So I think it's important, showing too, like getting these first responders out. I'm like, these are the people that actually do support you, and we still do have support. So like I tell people like all the time, like we don't use one gym, we don't use one physical therapist, we don't use one. It's about building a community of folks that support what we do, but then also showing these first responders like, hey, you have this support,
Yeah.
and it's building a community too. Like when we do these workouts, like building a community of first responders that one see the importance in fitness, and are willing to be vulnerable and preach like, hey guys, one, we need to take care of ourselves, but like two, like, yeah, it's okay not to be okay.
Hmm.
And you can come talk to whatever, like we're not all tough guys, we're not all whatever, like macho man. Like it's okay, there is a community of us, and building that community as well. So it's definitely, like I said, it's just a holistic approach. But I love building up the community, and we've had a lot of support so far, and it's been great. And I just want to continue to grow it. Right now, we keep all of our stuff local because I got to touch home base first, got to take care of home, right? And I'd love to see and help turn kind of the culture around first responders, especially with the physical and mental health. Like, be the pillar that kind of like helped change that, right?
Yeah.
And get that rolling to where everybody is just healthy and all aspects of life. And you see it. We had a guy at our. I like to tell the story. We had a guy at our department that ended up passing away in his home, and we had to work the call.
Mm.
And a bill once after he passed, it came out that he was drinking a whole bunch, right? And you're like, wow. And like I would sit and listen to some of the stories. I'm like, well, that was like a silent cry for help. Like, but we just didn't, because we do have that, no, he's dumbass, and
Yeah.
it's like, man, but if somebody would have probably taken a second and just been like, hey man, like, you good? Like,
Hmm.
that's not a drink or two. That is a whole bottle. Like, what is going on? And taking that second, like, could he still be here with us today? I don't know, but at least you try to
Hmm.
step in and take that. But it's amazes me because it is like you're just like, what do we do? We all want to gossip and call that person a dumbass, no matter what
Yeah.
it is. And so that person's a dumbass fucking idiot. Like, well, we're all grown, and we all probably know better. But some things, we're saying help without saying help.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and a lot of it I think is like, well, I don't, what's the word? Like deflection. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that's what's wrong in your, probably what's wrong in your own life. What you
oh yeah,
deep down know is where you're failing.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so, like I said, and it's really getting it out there. But I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy, especially like some of our workouts we do, getting the first responders out
Hmm.
there and seeing that community come out is just it's huge, and it's ultimately all about them and making sure that everybody's healthy, and we're out here, like I said, a time and time again. It's for you, it's for your family, and it's ultimately also for your community and your brothers and sisters that you serve with. Like, you want to be an asset. So
Yeah.
it's the way I look at it, and it's yeah, I go on and on about it.
Yeah, no, I
I feel
love it.
like
And I think just like to kind of wrap that up, at the end of the day, one of the things that I really feel strongly about and what I want to do, with my platform, and you touched on it when you mentioned the reel that went viral with your wife, is changing the narrative and
mhm,
like the standard and the expectation of what it means to be a police officer
yeah,
and a man or a woman and someone who has a family, because it's too often that the expectation and the narrative is that they drink, they
eat
are
donuts.
abusive, they eat
Yeah,
donuts, they're angry, they cheat, they divorce, like all
yeah.
of these negative things that come to mind for the community, the law enforcement community, but then also, the general public. We've got to change that
Yeah.
narrative because it's quite frankly, it's embarrassing
Oh,
how
100%.
many people just kind of default to those thought processes.
No, absolutely. And that's, I'm trying my best to, put a footprint in getting that going the right way, um, to get some of those out, like
You're
it's
doing it. You're
yeah,
doing it.
some of that's, it is. I mean, you're gonna always have some of the bad, right?
Hmm.
But we gotta find a way to outweigh the bad with the good,
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
things
And I
going.
love that you guys are doing the hormones too, because I think that's very overlooked. And I mean, it's a little bit newer, but it is overlooked. And I think that it's a real problem that has a real solution. And I think
Oh, yeah,
sometimes, like, especially when it comes to like mental health and some of this stuff can feel woo-woo or willy-nilly or very like, I can't get on board with that because I'm a
right.
rough
Yeah,
and
and a lot of
tumble
people like,
cop.
I mean, you look at it as like they're like, oh, TRT, like, oh, steroids or something. Like, no, 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 no. This is like prescribed by a doctor. Like, you need it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I think people, they look at it in the light of like, okay, well, what am I going to be, just horny or something? And it's like,
Hmm.
no, like, it actually helps you sleep better. It
Yeah.
helps you
You're
with
gonna
the
operate like a normal
cognitive stuff.
person.
Like, yeah, like it's bettering you, and so like when I talk to male first responders, I'm like, hey, like, the older you get, you're just gonna lose it.
Hmm.
You're not gonna get more back. So if it's something that you want to do because you want to have more energy, you want to feel, back active, or you want to get into the gym and have that drive to get back in the gym, let's go get your blood work done and let's look at some things. And then we can assess from there and go forward. and
Mhm.
because it is something that's kind of like overlooked is the hormone side of it.
Yeah.
And like I said before, with all the cortisol, the ups and downs, like you can be sitting in your patrol car, like, hey, this is a very busy day, or or sorry, very slow day, or at your station, like this is slow. And then all of a sudden it's like boom, traumatic. And then
Yeah.
you're up, and then that's
Mhm.
down. Then it goes down,
Mhm.
then you're back up, and then it's down. And then you, like for a cop, like you go home, say you're on midnights, got home 7 a.m. I'm asleep, have to be up for court at 10. Then I'm gonna go
Mhm.
back to work. Like your hormones are so shot.
Yes. Yes.
And we need to look at that and see if we can't get you some help to get those back balanced. I actually talked to a couple. It's a gym that we actually are doing our 9/11 Heroes tribute run at, and we've done a workout there. And I was on his podcast as well. But we've had a conversation about like just in people in general, like when you find, say, a couple that's looking at a divorce, right, or
Mhm.
something like that. Like we agreed, like, hey, you should go get your hormones checked before you follow through with that, because it could just be some underlying hormonal issues that if we
Mhm.
get him back level, it would be fine, right? Like, is
Mhm.
he just that grumpy, or is she just that bitchy, or is it
Yeah.
some hormones are
That's a
off?
good point.
We got off somewhere. So how can we get these back level, and then let's see where we're at. Now, if we still hate each other afterwards, then whatever.
Right.
But I think that would be a good first step to get checked out, because it could be a thing.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I'm glad that it's sort of coming about and getting a little bit more awareness because it's a very tangible, very literal thing that you can look at and be like, this is an answer to
Yeah,
this problem that you might be having.
yeah,
And it's not that you changed as a person or now you're just an asshole or whatever it is. It's
right,
because this and this is a little out of whack and we can make this and this tweaks to your lifestyle or whatever,
right.
medication we have to give you, whatever it is. And now we're going to get kind of back on schedule and back on track and
A
things are going
little
to
bit
even out.
normal. Some energy is gonna come back.
Exactly. It's like a very literal solution,
Yeah.
which I love. So I'm really glad that that is an element to what you guys do. Where can everyone find you? How can everyone find you and find out more about the Go Further
Yeah,
initiative?
so like I mentioned, you can hop on our website, gofortheinitiative.com. We are on Instagram, go further initiative underscore. We post on there, what we're doing, events, folks we've helped out. But most information is going to be on our website. You can find out about our programs, kind of read into them, stuff like that. Some of the other stuff that we've done as well. Like I said, we'll take care of like, line of duty deaths, stuff like that, our chronic illness. We've done some pretty unique things for a couple families that have made big impacts on that. It's like a quick story. A captain at my police department, his daughter was battles like a lot of stomach issues. Doesn't really Mayo Clinic, all these other things. But like we were just talking one day, and she has to be fed through a feeding tube. Well, the protein that she was using was hurting her stomach, and I was like, hey, well, let's find out a protein, that maybe she can use. I have a good connection with the people over at supplement superstores. Um, they always know their stuff about their proteins and this and that. They're always very knowledgeable. I was like, let's go over there. And so we went over there and got her like a few different tubs of protein. And I was like, well, let's get her chocolate, strawberry, because so at least, it's not like the same old, thing,
Yeah.
because she would make creamies with them.
Yeah.
Because it was, so I was like, yeah, she can get like a cinnamon roll creamy and
Yeah.
like a strawberry, it's just my thought process. So we were able to do that for her, and it worked out. Like that protein that we got her didn't hurt her stomach.
Amazing.
So it's like cool things like that. And the other things that we did, an officer, and he's also a veteran. His daughter has a Cardi syndrome, which is like 4,000 cases, and it's like female only.
Wow.
It's crazy, super rare. But they actually traveled to St. Louis almost on a monthly basis to see her 10 specialists, and just reaching out to them and kind of picking where we could step in for them. And a lot of what we did for them was take care of their hotel stay down there. Just because
Wow.
it's one thing that's not, you know, covered by insurance. I don't think anybody's insurance would cover that. But a young family,
Yeah.
and trying to do the best that they can for their baby girl, like $600 for 2 nights, once a month, it adds up.
A lot.
So just different things. Like we will really just step in where we can. First responder families and veteran families and stuff like that to make sure that it is just taken care of and we're a resource and available for them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how kind of outside the box you guys are thinking and
Yeah.
helping in ways that people might not initially think of. So that's awesome. But I really appreciate you. I really appreciate what you stand for, and I'm so glad to have you on.
Yeah,
Thank you for being
absolutely.
here.
Really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah.
It's funny, like this is the third podcast I've done, and I never thought I'd ever
Ooh,
be on
look
podcast.
at you.
Here I am on podcast, and I do enjoy it. It helps get everything out there, but helps make connections and keep it alive, and get it. I do enjoy it. I
Yeah,
even toyed around the fact that I was like, man, I could start a podcast because I do love
probably
talking.
could.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
do it.
I do enjoy it, and I do really appreciate this opportunity. I've told multiple people, like, I was talking to Catherine, got connected through Will, and I said it was really eye opening to me when you were talking about, like, I look at it from the kids' perspective
Mhm.
because I've never heard that. And never even crossed my mind to even think about it. So now I think about my kids all the time too. They're probably
Yeah. Oh, I'm
it's
glad to hear that.
crazy, but because it is a different perspective that you're
Yeah.
taking on it, that I think gets overlooked as well. So it's awesome. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of people just don't think like our kids have a perspective. Like they're just kind
Right.
of there, but they are having their own experiences and seeing things through, their own lens. And we talked about it earlier, like with the football game,
Yeah.
or, why doesn't Emily's parents do X, Y, and Z? So
Yeah.
it really does, even if it's not nefarious, even if it's not that you're drinking all the time, like even if
Right.
it's not as bad as so and so's lifestyle, like there are things that are happening that are just not happening in your kids' peers'
Yeah.
homes. And
Well,
that
that's I
is a
love it.
cool
It's
thing.
like my board, like we'll always, if there's something that comes in that's just going to better the family and maybe I mean, yeah, it's still going to direct that first responder, but like if it's just going to better the family as a whole, we'll take a look at it, whatever the situation may be, because like I said, it's a holistic approach, which also like that includes everybody in the household.
Right.
We want the household as a whole to be healthy. There's one thing, to get a first responder or a military guy there, but it's like, well,
Hmm.
what about everybody else? Because it's, he has a wife, a kid, or she has a husband, kids. Like,
Hmm.
how can we make this whole family better? So we'll definitely look at that too. Like when we do our workouts, we always allow spouses to come,
Love that.
because then the spouses can come and work out, and we'll do like kids too, as long as they're over the
Hmm.
age of 15. And that's just obviously gym liability, stuff like that.
Right, right.
But just to see too, like I think it's important, like you're doing these things with your wife, you're going to become healthy together, you
Hmm.
know, and that's ultimately the goal. Or if your kid, and it could shed a different light on a kid's perspective of like, man, my dad, like, yeah, he was kind of like the 1% or whatever, like he took care of himself and he does take care of himself so he can better serve the community, but also be there for us and show up for us as well. So
Hmm.
this kind of opens the
Yeah.
the door, if you would.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's a great way to connect. And I mean, it's just great all around. I love the aspect or like the element of utilizing fitness as a way to kind of facilitate all of this. So
Absolutely.
I'm totally on board. I love it. But thank you again. Can you just share your website one more time?
Gofortherinitiative.com. Double check the spelling because even me, I forget a couple I's every once in a while. A lot of I's in
One of
initiative.
those words.
Yeah, it's one of those words, but yeah, www.gofortherinitiative.com. You can see all about us there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sean, and shout out again to Will. Thank you for the
Yeah,
connection.
absolutely. Thank you.